I don't know if I should leave these glasses for the whole review because I kind of love them, and don't ask me why, but I literally bought these glasses just for this review. And yeah, I think I'm gonna keep my glasses on top so we can talk face to face, eye to eyes. But anyways, welcome back to another video here on the Shining Royal Horror. I'm so glad to have you here to talk about a brand new film, a brand new original slasher holiday theme, which is Hard Eyes, a Valentine's horror film, which I think it's been a while. Like, when was the last time we got a Valentine's themed horror? Like, the first movie that comes to my mind is obviously Valentine from 2001, but that was ages ago. So I'm trying to think of another film. If you know another Valentine's horror theme, please let me know in the comment section below. I would love to know it. But yeah, let's talk about this film. We'll talk about positives, negatives, although by the title of this video you more or less will know how I felt about it. But I managed to watch this movie a few days before like the worldwide release, thanks to my local cinema. They do like early screenings for brand new horrors here and there, and Hard Eyes, I was lucky enough to watch it a few days before. So as I did on my companion review, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna be doing like the synopsis on my own words so I don't spoil it too much, and also I will talk about my relationship with this film, how I felt before the movie, during the movie, and after the movie, so that way like we get to be more personal, let's say. So Hard Eyes is basically a brand new slasher where we follow a serial killer that attacks every single year only on Valentine's Day, and in this case it's coming to Seattle, where we're following our character Ally, which is portrayed by Olivia Holt. She's in like her late 20s and she's a bit stuck in life because she doesn't really like the job she's doing. She doesn't really have experienced love in a while, and so she feels a bit like annoyed with life. She gets to meet a brand new person. They get to know each other overall, but because they're getting to know each other on Valentine's Day, they come across Hard Eyes and things go chaotic from there. Now, my experience with this movie, basically before it got released, I was very excited for it because obviously it's a brand new slasher. I was very excited that this didn't belong to a franchise. Obviously, I also like that, I don't know, the killer's design, like with the pictures that I saw online and all of that. I was getting very excited. I did watch the trailer, which is usually something that I don't really do, and that trailer was really well put together. That I was very excited for it. Obviously Jordana and Devon Sawa, they were both involved in this film, and obviously I like them so much, and it's been a while since I had watched them on the big screen, and I think this is the first time I got to watch Devon Sawa in the big screen, because honestly I'm trying to think if he's been in films where I watched him, but I don't think he has. But Jordana, obviously she's part of the Fast and Furious franchise, so I've been seeing her like every single year with those movies. But I was very excited to see her back in horror with Devon Sawa. Like, come on, how could you not be excited for this film? Now, when it comes to after the movie, that's why I'm doing this review, so I think we could just jump into the positives, because there is not many positives, I'm not gonna lie. Like, overall, spoiler alert for this review, I gave this movie 2 out of 5, so I will try my best to not be too negative, because I hate complaining about movie. I hate complaining overall. I don't think it's that ideal, but I hate complaining about movies overall, especially about horror. But if you're not happy with a product, it's normal if you complain. So things happen. That's part of life. That's part of the process of life. So, but I will try my best to not be too negative about this film. So the positives that I have about Hard Eyes, there are quite a few, to be honest. For example, I do appreciate that this was a directorial debut. Like, how fun it could have been for me, or like for any filmmaker out there, to have Hard Eyes as your directorial debut. Even if it's not the best product or the best product, having a slasher as your directorial debut must be so much fun. So I do appreciate and I do admire the director for like having this as his first product. I did also love the cinematography. I think the cinematography is the best aspect this movie has going for, especially because this movie takes place mostly during nighttime, and I think the night shots, they were very well executed, especially because the lighting, I could see what was happening on screen. Like, nothing was super dark, like everything was clear. I think the lighting plan was pretty gorgeous, especially because the whites, like where they were working with the night shoots and obviously with the blood and all of that. Like, this movie, like technically wise, cinematography wise, looks gorgeous. It looks like a proper slasher, so I was really pleased with it. And honestly, the cinematography is one of the things that kept me interested, if that makes sense, because I'm glad this movie was not like, say, like a fan footage or like like the cinematography was lower, because I feel like that would have taken me out of my experience overall. Talking about technical stuff, which is like the main positive aspects that I have to give about Hard Eyes, I really love the score and the soundtrack, especially during the chase scenes or when our killer is revealed, like when he's on screen and all of that. I did love the soundtrack. I would love to have this on my Spotify. I think this slashers overall have like one of the best soundtracks in horror, to be honest. I can't wait to see like if instruments were involved and all of that, but I did really like that. The score was also incredible, especially because when the kills are happening, the blood, the gore, the guts, like I really did like that. Especially if you watch this movie at the cinemas, you will really feel everything that's happening on screen, and that's all thanks to the sound design and the score. Another positive aspect that I have to give about this film is obviously our killer. The killer design of this movie is gorgeous. Like, I love that mask. I can't wait to see if they're gonna make like in real life, like they did with Ghostface or like with Jigsaw and all of that. I really like the design of this killer. I think he looked gorgeous. The fact that the heart eyes are literally heart eyes. There is a specific scene where there is neon with like the heart eyes that look insane. It was very good looking, and we will talk about that in the negative aspects, but I do wish we saw that mask more, because I don't think it was enough. That mask was really gorgeous. I also like that like the movie played homage to different horror films. Obviously it gave homage to Scream, to Friday the 13th, to I Know What You Did Last Summer, but we will get to talk about that more in the negative aspects. I also really like that the few kills that we got, most of them were graphic and most of them were practical. Like the makeup was practical, and I really appreciate that, especially because of the blood. So I really like when slashers are not scared to be on screen, you know, like the Terrifier movies. And finally, a few positive aspects that I have to give to this film is that a few sequences in the film that were really fun. For example, there is a specific scene that is happening in like a road cinema, you know, like where you are inside your car and you watch a movie. That whole sequence was very fun. It was very creative, original, because I haven't seen that in horror in a while, so it was fun to see it. I think they played it so well with the killer, with the victims, the cars, the cinema overall. That was pretty fun, especially because there is one of the best, if not the best, kill is happening in that specific scenario, in that landscape. So I really like the way they played it. I feel like the filmmakers there must have so much fun. But it was also, I can tell that it must have been very difficult to film like that sequence, but I really admire it. It's one of my favorites. It's not, if not my favorite sequence in the whole film. And at the same time, there's many like different sequences that I really love. For example, there's some chase scenes that I really appreciated, especially because there is one specific scene where our character, she's in like a theme park, like a roller coaster kind of theme park, and she's in this attraction that I forget the name, with horses. I think that was really well done. I think also the other chase scenes inside the house or like on the road, they were pretty fun. Like, this movie is a slasher, and it has like it accomplished to follow the formula of slashers here and there, like chase scenes, great sound design, great kills, great scenarios, all of that. I think that's the best things Hard Eyes has going for. Jumping to the negatives, and again I will try my best to be not too negative about it. I just didn't like the rest of the movie, you know, like the storyline, the characters, the script, and just the vibes overall. I feel like Hard Eyes, this concept, I think it deserved a better execution. Like the script, like how can I say that? The script kept forgetting that this movie was a slasher and a horror movie. Like 98% of this movie was basically an early 2000s cheesy rom-com, and then the 2 other percent was a horror film. And that's something that I don't think is a positive aspect about this, because come on, Hard Eyes, this killer design, like the tools and the kills that we got, it just didn't make sense that we spent so much time in this film as a rom-com, and I just didn't appreciate that at all. I was very bored the entire time with this movie. I didn't like it, and the script, when it comes to the characters, their dialogues, everything felt too cringy. And the jokes, let's talk about the jokes, because this movie has too much comedy for no reason, honestly. I think the comedy doesn't really work in this film. I don't know if it's because the way it was written or because of the way it was performed, and it's surprising because Christopher Landon is part of the writing team in this movie. I don't know how much he was involved with it, but he is credited as a writer, and it's surprising because he has written films such as the Happy Death Day movies, Freaky, and those three films, the comedy in those films are very, very, very well executed. So I was surprised when I saw Christopher Landon being part of the writing team, because I was like, where was the comedy? The comedy in this film is very, very forced. Like, you feel forced to laugh about it. And don't get me wrong, I don't mind comedy in horror films, in a slasher, if it belongs to it. For example, I just talked about Companion, and Companion, the comedy there is insane. Like, I laughed so much. I loved the comedy in that film. The dark humor was really, really well done. Obviously, if we talk about, for example, the first Scream, in that film, obviously, like, it's one of the best films ever made. The comedy there is so well executed, but in Hard Eyes, everything was just too cringy. I didn't really like the comedy in this film. Sometimes I even wished the comedy was not part of this film. I wish this film was darker, but unfortunately it's not. There is so many scenes, for example, with the detectives, that they made so many jokes. For example, there's one specific scene where our detectives are talking with our protagonist, and she's like, really, Hobbs and Shaw? And they're like, yeah. Like, that kind of comedy, it gets to me. I get very annoyed with that kind of comedy, and I wish this movie didn't have it. Speaking of which, the characters, let's talk about the characters, because all of them were very, very boring. Obviously, the casting, like Olivia, Jason, they were fine. Like, I'm glad we got to see a different, like, final girl or a different actress. Like, we haven't seen this actress in, like, horror films or in films in general, so I'm glad that we didn't see a common face. But I don't know, the characters, the way they were written, it was very, very boring. Like, I don't know why her work life or her office was that involved in the movie. That was pretty boring, to be honest. Her character was like a boring character. Like, I honestly didn't care about her at all. Like, I kind of was rooting for her to be gone. Obviously, no shame to the actress, because she is the actress. I'm talking about the character. The character was very boring. Like, her lines were too boring. Like, she didn't feel like she was in her late 20s. She mostly felt like she was in her early teens, and I don't know if that's supposed to be a good or a bad thing. Just overall, the other characters, again, too unrealistic. For example, her whole office, every single one was too annoying. And her best friend, I wish we got to be more time with her, because she was like very interesting and funny. But again, the comedy with that character was very, very annoying. I don't know, like, I was not really rooting for anyone. If we talked about the detectives portrayed by Jordana and Devon Sawa, again, boring characters. And if we just jump to another aspect, to the negative stuff, I feel like Jordana Brewster and Devon Sawa were hugely misused, and we will talk about it in spoilers in a second. But, like, come on, do you have someone as Devon Sawa and Jordana, and you don't have them on a screen for ages? Like, you constantly forget about them, and when they are on the screen, I was like, oh, so they were part of this movie. But yeah, hugely misused of a cast. Speaking of, our killer, I didn't like in this movie, keeps forgetting about his killer constantly. For example, we spent roughly like 35 minutes with the main character just being part of a rom-com, and the movie starts to lose its horror themes. The movie starts to lose its slasher aspect, because we spent so much time with our character literally going to a shopping mall, buying clothes, just such as a rom-com. And I was like, where is our killer? Where is Hard Eyes? Like, this guy is supposed to be slashing, killing everyone during Valentine's Day, but that wasn't happening. And when he was on screen, I was like, okay, finally we got to see it. But by the time that arrived, I was pretty bored, because I spent so much time with a character, I honestly didn't care. Speaking of Hard Eyes, I feel like Hard Eyes was hugely misused again, because honestly, this to be a slasher, it was not a slashing. Obviously, we got some pretty good kills, and I'm glad we had them, but I wish we got more, because this movie did not slash, and I don't know if that makes sense. And I was just pretty annoyed with it, because there were so many characters that they could have just have so much fun. For example, the office co-workers of our main protagonist, They could have had a scenes where Hard Eyes just goes and destroys everyone at the office, but that didn't happen to the best friend or anyone in general. Like, why didn't this film give us like a slashing with different couples or love in general with our killer? I wish that happened, but it didn't, so that was pretty annoying. And another critique that I have to give, and this might be the last critique that I have to give to this movie obviously is hugely inspired by the classics such as Friday the 13th, Scream, but overall this movie doesn't really stand out. Like, it's too obvious how inspired this movie is. Like, I feel like this movie is very forgettable, and I hate to say that because I was really looking forward, but there was just nothing memorable about it. For example, if you compare it to another themed horror such as Thanksgiving, that movie has so many aspects about it that I will remember, and it makes sense this movie was taking place in Thanksgiving because like of the parade, or because there is a night scene where our killer has like the Thanksgiving dinner, and that was very entertaining. But in Hard Eyes, nothing is memorable about it. Like, there is no scenes that involve Valentine's Day, that it could have done so much more. Yes, like our killer gets to kill the couples that are in this cinema outside, but like that's common. Like, you could have that scene somewhere else. Like, why didn't this film give us, for example, a kill like this character, like the killer goes to, I don't know, a romantic dinner where like there are so many couples having dinners and that character just lash everyone, or they could have used, I don't know, different items that belong to Valentine's, you know, like chocolate, flowers, stuff that belongs to Valentine's, and use them like to be part of the kills made by this killer. I don't know if that makes any sense. What I'm trying to say is that Valentine's, I don't think is that memorable in Hard Eyes. Like, if Hard Eyes was killing in summer, it will be the same as if he was killing on Valentine's Day, if that makes sense. Like, there is no enough themes of Valentine's in Hard Eyes. But overall, those are my thoughts in Hard Eyes. I give it a heart on Letterboxd just because I see myself rewatching this, trying to give it a second chance, and it's not a secret, a sequel will be announced any day, any second. So hopefully the sequel will be a better film, obviously I will see myself rewatching this. But for now, those are my thoughts. Let me know how you felt about Hard Eyes. I would love to read your comments in the comment section below or interact about it. I will talk to you soon, very, very soon. But for now, take care of yourselves and we will talk to you soon. Bye bye.